Metal Jesus, I'm back again with my Apple iPad and some of the games I've been playing on it, including some role-playing games, some shooters, puzzle games, adventure games, even racing games. I got a ton of cool stuff to show you. And as always, a lot of these games are also available on Android. But let's not waste any more time and take a look. I had played other games in the Asphalt series from time to time, but I gotta tell you, none of them are as awesome as Asphalt 8 Airborne. What makes this game so great is that it does so many things really well. For instance, the graphics, I mean, look at that. They're amazing for a portable touch device. But the gameplay, man, they just really nailed it. It feels like Burnout, but it's got its own style. And the reason why it's called Airborne is because you can basically do tricks off of these ramps or stunts and get boost. Also, I have to say that they really nailed the tilt controls. Now, I'm typically not a big fan of tilt controls, but this game definitely is better for it. There are also a ton of real licensed supercars in this game, which is always a benefit for me because I'm a big fan of Ferrari and Lamborghini. And there's a ton of different variety to do in this game, including multiplayer. There's a huge multiplayer community for this game. Sine Mora is a really popular bullet hell style shooter that was available on consoles like the PlayStation 3 and Xbox. Now it's on your mobile device. What sets this game apart is the beautiful, fully 3D graphics on this 2D plane. It's kind of an old school shooter, but it just looks so beautiful. I like how this game is, I don't know if it exists on a different world, or maybe it's in the future, or like an alternative past. I don't know, it's got some big story to it, I don't really care. But I like how it goes in many different places. You're in the air, you're down in caves, you're underwater, there's boss battles, there's just a ton to love about this game. Now, shoot 'em up fans know that the controls make or break these games, and thankfully this game gives you a bunch of different options. For instance, right there you're seeing me use the virtual stick down in the lower left-hand corner, and it works pretty well. It's a little floaty, but I think it's designed to be that way. Also, there's a one-to-one finger motion touch control option for people who are kind of more used to that on touch devices. The cool thing about this game is that recently the developers updated it to also support the Bluetooth iCade controller if you prefer physical buttons. All told, this is a high quality shoot 'em up on touch devices, and frankly, I love it. It's really, really great. Shadowrun Returns is an update to that classic Super Nintendo Genesis games that came out in the early 90s, but this one was paid for by a successful Kickstarter campaign. Now, it originally released a couple months ago via Steam on PCs, and a lot of people loved it. I mean, it really captures that classic old school turn-based RPG action. Shadowrun, for those who don't know, is an old school pen and paper role-playing game that it's a cyberpunk game, but it takes place in a futuristic Seattle. It's actually pretty cool. For some reason in the future, magic and mystical creatures have returned to the Earth, and this RPG kind of mixes all that together. It's actually pretty cool for people like me who are a little sick of the traditional Middle-earth, Tolkien D&D games. This game lets you create your character from scratch, including your sex, as well as your race, and also the type of combat that you're going to do, whether you're going to do sort of like magic, or you're going to do hacking, or you're going to just go in guns blazing. And also there's an element of conversation to this. So if you want to solve things without violence, often you can do that if you put attributes towards it. This is a really well-made RPG for touch devices, and although the story is kind of short, hopefully they're going to be bringing user-created content to it in the future. You're probably wondering, is this Rock Band or Guitar Hero on a touch device? No, actually this is a game called Rise to Fame, and it is a rock and roll RPG. In the game, you start off as a beginning bar band with really only one song and very few skills. But as you progress, you start getting more fans and use that to buy more skills for your guitarist, your bass player, your singer, and your drummer, and you use that to rise the ranks. The gameplay is almost like a real-time strategy game. Essentially what you're doing is that you are on stage and you need to get 100% satisfaction from the audience before your song is up, so there's a time limit. However, you have to win over the fans in the audience, and some of the fans are, well, they're pretty aggressive. They'll throw stuff at you, like they'll throw bottles, they'll throw fire at you, they'll do all sorts of stuff to kind of throw you off your game. However, next to each band member, you have different attacks and also defenses that you're going to need to use in real time to keep the song going and keep building up the satisfaction of your audience. Overall, this is a pretty interesting and fun game, especially if you're into music and bands like me. Now, the only thing I would say is that I do wish the game allowed you to use your own music. The music in the game is actually pretty bland and frankly uninspiring, and it would just be so much better if you could cue up some Sepultura or some Pantera, man. But other than that, it's pretty cool. Mikey hooks might look kind of similar, and that's because it's the sequel to a great platforming game that came out, I think, last year called Mikey Shorts. However, Mikey hooks, like the name implies, adds another element of hooking to the platforming, and I gotta tell you, it works really well. This is actually a better sequel in almost every way. Now, I know a lot of people have criticized touch controls and precision platforming, and you know, a lot of times that's justified, but I often tell those people, give this game a try. I mean, it's amazing how responsive the controls are when you play this game. There's also a real sense of fun with this game. I mean, you can tell that the developers were a big fan of those great 8-bit and 16-bit platforming games that you grew up with. Also, the levels are really varied and finely tuned to the gameplay, so once you beat a level, there's always this incentive to go back and race against your ghost that's been recorded and try to just speed run as fast as you can. And again, that's a real testament to how well the controls are. Not only that, it actually supports the iCade. So if you have an iCade and you prefer physical Bluetooth buttons, you can do that. Here's a game I have been obsessed with over the last couple weeks, and that is CSR Classics. Now, right off the bat, I have to tell you, I'm not a big fan of drag racing games. I mean, I have nothing against them. I just didn't see myself putting a ton of time into playing one. However, what's really brilliant about this game, and certainly addictive, is that it's a drag racing game, but it feels more like a car role-playing game. You start off with very little money, so you can only buy an old, crusty piece of crap car, but you slowly win races and earn money to buy upgrades. Now, I have to admit, my heart has been pounding literally while playing this game sometimes because races are won within a millisecond. I mean, it's just so intense playing this game. I don't know, I guess I'm really surprised I liked it as much as I did. So if you have any interest at all in cars and drag racing, check it out. Device number 6 is quite possibly one of the most original and interesting touch-based games I've played in a long time. This game is by the same developer that also made Yearwalk, which won a bunch of awards last year. I kind of describe this game, gosh, how do you describe this game? It's so interesting. It's basically a mix of kind of a text adventure mixed with Riven or maybe Myst. There's a lot of text to read and there's also a lot of puzzles to solve in this game. But what I love about it most is that it just feels really unique on a touch tablet device. Like, I don't think this game would have the same impact if you were to try to play it, say, on a console or a PC. For instance, you'll be reading along, maybe say the character's walking down a corridor or something like that, and they'll come to a corner, and the game will have you turn your device to go around that corner. And same thing when you come up to puzzles, that sometimes the puzzles are like looking out a window, and with your finger, you're actually moving around that window. It's just really hard to describe. You can kind of see it in these screenshots here. I will say though, I mean, if you're looking for something a little off the beaten path, really unique, really atmospheric, and frankly kind of creepy, this is totally your game. If you're a fan of my channel, then you know I'm a huge fan of light gun games, and House of the Dead Overkill on the Wii is one of my all-time favorites. Well, I was pretty excited to see that they released a touch-based version for the iPad, and I snagged it up when it went on sale. For the most part, the game is very similar. I would say it's not quite as varied or quite as deep as that, but for the most part, actually, it really feels like House of the Dead Overkill on a touch device. It's actually kind of amazing. Now, you're probably wondering, how does it control? Obviously, there's no light gun. You're using your finger, and as you can see, actually, I'm able to play it pretty well. It has a little virtual D-pad down at the bottom where when you move your thumb around, it basically is just tracking, and you know, actually it works really well. I had no complaints at all. Now, the original game had a ton of hilarious cinematics between missions. I mean, oh my God, some of the most sick and wrong dialogue happened between missions, and I just loved it in the first game. It reminded me of a Quentin Tarantino movie. Unfortunately, that's all gone. I mean, it's there kind of. They have still shots and stuff, but it's not the same. So I guess, you know, it's kind of a, I wouldn't say dumbed down port for touch devices because it really does feel very similar in the gameplay. But if you're looking for the full experience, it's not quite there. Violence. All right, well, there's a quick look at some of the games I've been playing on my iPad. And like I mentioned before, a lot of these games are also available on the iPhone, the iPod Touch, and Android. And I'd love to know what you guys have been playing on your mobile devices, so please post a comment below. Now, speaking of comments, one comment I get quite often on these videos ask me why I don't cover the price of these games. And the answer to that is very simple, and it's because the prices seem to change all the time. And, you know, sometimes when I talk about a game in this video, if you don't watch it 2 weeks or a month from now, you watch it then and maybe the game's half off. Or sometimes developers make them free temporarily, or sometimes they'll increase the price if they add, like, say, you know, an HD version or something like that. Anyways, I hope you guys found this video interesting. As always, I want to thank you for watching my channel and thank you for subscribing. Take care.